Hey everyone, hello, welcome to my show, Preterism Changes Everything. This is Jennifer Fishburne in San Antonio, Texas. And this is the last day that I'm going to have that Christmas tree up, so I thought I would go ahead and use it for background to start off the new year. So I want to talk with you a little bit about who I am, what we are going to be doing here, and why I am doing this. So I have, just so you know, that I am a full preterist. Preterism changes everything. And but you're not required to be a preterist to listen to this or to follow along. In fact, you're not required to do much of anything except be respectful. And so, but anyway, I wanted to let you know that right up front. So a little bit about my background is I grew up in a Christian church and was there every time the doors were open, went to Christian school, Christian home, all that kind of stuff. Wasn't really a Christian though, didn't have any kind of a relationship with God. And so several years after I grew up and left home, I did get involved in a lot of really bad stuff. And so I knew that I needed to change my life and turn it around. And so I sought out God. And I did have some kind of an experience, and some people will say that's when I became saved. But one of the things that we're going to be talking about is all of these terms that we use that we've been taught about in church that may or may not be exactly what they mean. So anyway, I did have an encounter with God, so I want you to know that I do believe that we can have a relationship with God today. And so, but I think it's going to be a little bit different from what we've been told for the most part throughout the years. So as I went along the way then, I soon became very fascinated with studying the Bible, and then shortly after that with teaching Bible studies. And so I started teaching a lot of in-depth Bible studies. And one of them that I started teaching was Kay Arthur's precept method. And that precept method is based on the inductive Bible study, or the inductive, logic type of method, where I learned how to do word studies there. And I learned how to answer, or how to ask the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how, and to be really consistent in doing that. And that really, really changed my Bible study a lot. And then I learned how to make connections in the Bible. Now, everyone loves to play ... in the scriptures, but it doesn't actually work that way. So you can make the Bible say anything you want it to say by playing ... but we're going to learn how to actually learn the correct way to make those connections. And what does the Bible say if we allow it to speak for itself? So that's going to be a huge emphasis. We've been taught a lot of things in church. If you grew up in church like I did, or if you're just learning things, or maybe you're brand new and then you don't have to unlearn all of these things. But if you grew up in church, I can promise you that you learned a lot of things that are not true about the Bible. And so we're going to just learn to let the Bible speak for itself. So as I'm going along the way, there was a pastor online who started challenging me about the law of Moses. Now, at this time, let me back up for a minute. I actually have been to many, many, many different churches and many different denominations, and I'm very, very grateful for that experience. I never got really attached to any one doctrine, any denomination, any pastor or teacher, anything like that. I had a wide variety, and so was able to compare them and to see, do these people, they say something different than these people, and what's the truth? How do I know the difference? And I started learning those things. So I'm very, very grateful for those experiences. So what I have found is that most people who come into preterism, they will attach or add preterism onto their very long list of already previously loved and held doctrines and beliefs. So that's not the way it works, though. Preterism necessarily changes everything that we believe, everything that we know about the Bible. And if it doesn't, then we haven't gone far enough yet. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we're going to learn, how does preterism change everything? So as before, as I was going along the way, studying the Bible, for several years, I was in the Messianic movement. Now, I was never 100% in, but I really, really enjoyed studying the things that they had to share. And so I learned a lot about the culture and the language and the history and just the times, the way that the Jewish people would have understood the Bible. And so I'm going to bring a lot of that into it. Now, during that time, though, I thought that I was under the law of Moses because that's what they teach in the Messianic movement, right? But I had this pastor come online and he challenged me that I was not under the law of Moses. Well, he started asking me a bunch of questions that I couldn't answer. And this was the first time that I couldn't answer the questions. Usually I'm the one asking the other people the questions. And so, it made me really curious. So he challenged me to a Bible study. Well, I kind of knew at the beginning, I had this idea that he was probably right, but I wasn't about to change my mind until I learned it for myself. So it turned out that this guy was a professor at the Dallas Theological Seminary, and so he had been teaching this particular Bible study for 35 years, and he taught thousands of people on whether or not the law of Moses applies to us today. And so I spent the next 90 days studying 8 to 12 hours a day until I finally came to the position that I was 100% convinced that the law of Moses was not for us today. Now, hopefully it doesn't take you that much time, but that set me on a trajectory of learning a whole new way to study the Bible. So this theological professor, he taught me, at the same time, he taught me hermeneutics. He taught me how to interpret from the original languages. He taught me logic, he taught me grammar, and he taught me how to make the connections. And when we know how to let Scripture speak for itself, and we're not just making up those dot-to-dot connections in the Scripture, we're allowing them to make its own connections. So he really, really taught me a lot. But he also told me that I was the last student that he had before he died. And he told me that I was also his most difficult student. And that was actually because I asked him more questions than any of the other students had. And I also had asked him questions that he didn't have the answers for. And he had to go back and look. And by the time we were done with our study, he still didn't have all the answers to the questions that I had. So that set me on a new path. Well, now I had the tools for understanding how to study the Bible, but I had more questions. So I started being 100% consistent in what I was doing as far as asking the questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. We're going to be looking at those all the time, all right? So I wanted to be consistent in that. And so that is what led me to Preterism, and then that is what led me to seeing that very quickly after I became a full preterist, I saw that preterism necessarily changes everything in the Bible. So if you're just coming in with all of your other denominational baggage, then you might want to just check it at the door. Do what I did. This is what I said. I'm going to forget that I've ever studied anything in the Bible. Now, I had studied thousands and thousands and thousands of hours by this point, right? But I said I'm going to forget everything. I'm going to read the Bible again as if I have never read it in my life. I want it to say, what does the Bible say? If I just let the Bible speak for itself, what does it say? And that's what we're going to be doing in this study. And I think you're going to see a different picture, a different story. Now, I am a big picture person, so I will be talking about big picture ideas, but we're going to be getting into some of the details as well. So I do think that the Bible is a one big story from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, but it's not in order. So we're going to be looking at it chronologically, so I'm going to be putting it in order. So we'll be looking at it in maybe a way that you haven't seen before. I'll just give you one little hint on this one. We're going to look at Jesus' ministry as a 1-year ministry, not a 3.5-year ministry. So that one was exciting for me to learn. I hope you enjoyed that one as well. so that will take us, a long time to get through that part. But I think you'll be able to see it. So I have a lot of things that I want to share with you. I don't necessarily think that I have all the answers. I don't think that I'm right and everybody else is wrong. I have gone on to do some more school. I've taken hermeneutics classes from 3 different types of seminaries, and so I have a very different perspective. So I'm not just coming at it from one, like the Dallas theological perspective. I'm not doing that. So I have 3 very, very broad perspectives on that. So then I also have gone to school at the University of Jerusalem in Israel and studied Hebrew there. I've studied a little bit of Greek. We're going to be taking a look at what the original languages say, and we're also going to be looking at why the English translations or versions are not very useful when you're doing Bible study. They're full of presuppositional words. They're basically, they've got words in them that are just English words that they just say what they want you to hear, not necessarily what they actually say. So we're going to be taking a look at a lot of those. And let's see, some of those, just to give you a few examples, eternal, everlasting, forever. Those words don't mean what you think they mean. We're going to be looking at that. The doctrine of election, what is that? And who does it apply to? That's a real biggie, and we need to understand exactly what that is. And I think that as we understand that, we're going to be taking away that Calvinism versus Arminianism argument that we see constantly all throughout the years. We can actually solve that problem when we understand what the Bible actually says about that. What does it mean to be chosen? What is a generation, and why is that important? Then we understand that. The word church is actually a church word. It doesn't mean what it says it means. Salvation definitely does not mean what people think it means. Atonement. There's so many. There's just on and on and on. We're going to be looking at all these different words in the Bible and finding out what do they really mean, and if they mean that, Gentiles, oh my goodness, if they mean that, then how does that change the story? It changes it a lot. And so we're going to be looking at that kind of stuff as well. All right. So we're going to try to take away all presuppositions and just look at, hey, what does the Bible say if we just let it talk for itself, right? Okay. So then let's see, what do we want to do? The Bible is full of synchronicity. So synchronicity has many different meanings. And one of the meanings of that word that I really like is it means multiple layers of meaning and depth. So I do think that the Bible has many, many layers. Let me explain that in just a minute. First, I want to say why I am, what makes me different from the other people out there on YouTube teaching, especially in Preterism. So right now, let's start with that. So right now, let's talk about some of the other people. Now, I'm not going to be the type of person who tears down other people and, mocks them and makes fun of them. That's not me. I am here just to teach, and you don't not required to agree with me if you don't want to. I hope that you can learn something. I hope that we can learn from one another, and so I've learned some things from a bunch of other teachers, and I want to give them credit for that. But I also want to show what is going to make me different from them. So the first one is Don Preston. So Don Preston is really, really, really good at teaching that Jesus came back in AD 70 and the second coming already happened. He's really good at teaching full preterism, okay? And but I will say that that's about all that he teaches. And so there's definitely more to the Bible than just Jesus came back in AD 70. And once you get that down, you should be ready to move on from there. That should not be where you park your cart. I want to say that Jason DaCosta, it does a really, really good job of teaching Israel only. Now, Israel only is a subset of full preterism, and right now there's a lot of fighting and arguing and debating and stuff going on. Well, is Don Preston's view right, or is Jason DeCosta's views right, or is the other IO view right, Israel only view right? And I do want to say that I think that Jason is an excellent teacher, and that as far as the parts in the Bible regarding the natural story of Israel, that Jason does an excellent job of that. And he, and I also know that there are a lot of arguments and debates within the Israel-only view. There's also several, or at least two main views going on right there. And I want to say that I am friends with all of those people, and I plan on staying that way. So I'm not here to tear them down. I'm actually here to show that they're both right. And we're going to take a look at that. And then I want to give credit to David Curtis. So I used to listen to David Curtis teach on with Berean Bible Church a lot. And he does really well at teaching the whole Bible. And I really appreciate that about him. And he also does really well at answering the questions, who, what, where, when, why, and how. And all the way up until you get to those Calvinism verses. And for some reason, he throws all the rules out the window, and he somehow thinks that he's in the Bible, in all the Calvinism verses, but the rest of the Bible, he gets pretty good. So I've learned a lot of really cool things from David Curtis, and I'm going to be sharing some of those things with you here. So what I want to say is that this is not about who's right or who's wrong, but more that everybody's getting a little bit of different pieces of the puzzle, and it's time for us to put that puzzle together. It's time for us to see the synchronicity of the different layers in Scripture. So I have one that I have taught for a long time, that the natural always points to the spiritual. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about a lot in Scripture. And those are two different layers, the natural and the spiritual. And I get that from 1 Corinthians 15:46. Let's see, but it is not the natural that is first, but it is not the spiritual that is first, but the natural, and then the spiritual. And so we're going to be going into that in great detail, excuse me, as we study. So that's going to be a big deal. So I'm going to be taking Don Preston's view, David Curtis' view, Jason DeCosta's view, and 500 other preterist views that are out there. That might be a slight exaggeration, but I'm going to be taking them, and I'm going to show that we have different personalities, we have different perspectives, we're seeing different things, and a lot of it is right. We just need to weave them all together and to show what that tapestry is that is there, excuse me, when you see all the different layers put together into one. And that's what we're going to be doing in this study coming up. So let's see here. J.P. Moreland said, "We should try to have as many true beliefs as we can and reject as many false beliefs as we can." That's going to be the goal in this series. We're going to go through the Bible chronologically. I'm going to do about 15 minutes a day. And then I'm not going to, I'll be probably doing it Monday through Friday. I might throw in some topical on a Sunday or something once in a while, especially if some questions or something come up, I might do that. So I'm going to be a little bit flexible in doing this program, but however long it takes us to get through, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't care. We're going to get through the whole Bible as one story. And then we're going to be looking for as many truths as we can. And we're going to find it that if we come together and we actually put our layers together, it's going to paint a more beautiful picture for us. And so I hope you all enjoy the ride, and make sure that you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and feel free to comment on either YouTube or Facebook, wherever you'd like to comment. The only thing I ask is that you be respectful and do not delete your comments, because I'm not going to play that little game that I see going on. So as long as you're respectful and don't delete, then I will be respectful and interact with you as well. So look forward to spending a lot of time with you all in the near future. I will see you tomorrow, and we will start with Genesis 1:1. Bye.